Hello guys and welcome to Football Fan Den UK. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the fantastic weather we've been getting recently. It's been quite enjoyable, and obviously I'm sure you guys have been trying to get out there and make the best of it. I know I have. Winter is on its way. So today, here to do a video with regards to the EFL introducing the salary cap. Obviously, you guys that have done a bit of read up on it or whatever might have some inkling on it already. I've done quite a bit of research to bring this video to you today, guys, and I've read quite a bit about it. And obviously, I will share my views and opinions on it as we progress in the video. If you're new to the channel, be very much appreciated if you like and subscribe, help the channel grow. Obviously, that is the aim of Football Fan Den, to grow and become a channel for fans. I have been working on trying to get some fans on the channel and do some more fan videos, and obviously get input from you guys. Have got quite a few people that have shown interest. It's just been a bit difficult to get people to arrange times and days when we can do it. Obviously, with people having commitments, that can be quite tricky sometimes. But obviously, as the channel grows and progresses, hopefully that will become a bit easier in the future. So let's get into it, guys. So the introduction of a salary cap is coming in League One and League Two in the upcoming season. The salary cap in League One is going to be 2.5 million, and the salary cap in League Two is going to be 1.5 million. There is also a proposal for a salary cap in the Championship, but that won't be implemented this season coming. I'm presuming that they're going to try and push that through for next season, and the salary cap for that, or the figures being suggested for that, is 18 million. Personally, I think that this is absolute madness. The actual proposal of a salary cap is a great idea in principle, and I do kind of agree with it. But obviously, as we go over the details in a minute, I'll express my reasonings why. The main reason I've got why I think it's madness at this stage is because I don't think it's been well thought out. I think it's been pushed through in ridiculously short time. And also, the main reason is, I believe, if a salary cap is going to work, it needs to start at the top, not halfway down the league system. When I say halfway, the reason I say halfway down is because obviously there is the non-league aspect to consider, and the way that this is going to actually be enforced basically means that potentially a non-league club will be able to offer better wages to a player than a club in League One and League Two. When I say that it's been rushed through, here is the reason why. From research that I've done, I've found out that apparently the first meeting with regards to this salary cap was held in January. The EFL are using the reasoning for pushing this through as because of the coronavirus. Well, I'm sorry, but unless they've got a crystal ball, how the hell did they know that the coronavirus was going to have such an impact on football back in January? Because none of us knew that back in January. So how they have come up with that reasoning is beyond me. They probably have the reason for doing it as pushing it through because of the coronavirus, but actually in the implementation of a salary cap can't just be because of coronavirus, because if it was, you wouldn't have held the meeting in January. You would have held it after the coronavirus started to impact football. So guys, as I understand it, this is how it's going to work. The salary cap in League One and League Two is going to include agents' fees, players' wages, players' bonuses, and basically any expense from a football club in relation to paying players. Obviously, there is a slight positive on this in respect of UK football, and anything that is positive for UK football, I am obviously always going to be positive about if I can. But with this, I'm kind of like 50-50. Well, I'm not even 50-50. I'm more like 60-40. And the reason for that is because for Scottish clubs, this could be a positive, because it could help Scottish clubs attract players in a more level playing field, and possibly even Welsh and Northern Irish clubs. But for League One and League Two clubs, it's an absolute negative, in my opinion. Now, one thing that I've come across that stuck out at me while I was doing all the research with this, guys, is that I've read quite a lot about it, and that in everything that I've read, there was absolutely no mention of the English FA being involved in these discussions. Now, they may have been involved. I'm not saying they haven't, but I have not been able to find anything that has said that basically the FA were involved in the discussions. Now, if that is the case, that is absolute just a disgrace, because the EFL, as I understand it, run Championship and League One and League Two, and the FA overlook everything. So basically, the FA is like the top dog. They're supposed to be the top dog. They're supposed to make sure that things like this are actually, proposed properly and implemented properly. And here's the reason why I don't think it's being implemented properly. Because if you are going to speak to all parties about potentially implementing a salary cap, then surely you need the time to speak to all parties and get everybody's input. Managers, chairmen, fans, sponsors, players, even UEFA if necessary. There is so many people involved in a football club that everybody should be having their input in this for it to work. Now, my main thinking, the reason it's not a good idea and the reason it's not going to work is because if he was going to introduce a salary cap and make it work, in my opinion, it needs to start at the top and work down. So it should be being started in the Premier League. The fact that it's not just shows how messed up the people in charge of the game that we love are, because you have got the Premier League and then you've got the EFL and you've got the FA, and they can't all come together to sit round a table and actually propose this and plan this properly as intelligent people that represent our game and are supposed to look out for the best interests of our game. And if that was the case, and they was genuinely looking out for the best interest for our game, then surely they should have the intelligence to recognise that they all need to come together to discuss things like this, because it will affect every part of football. A decision, even a decision like this in League One and League Two, can still potentially affect the Premier League. And the reason I say that is because if you've got a salary cap of 2.5 million and a potential salary cap in Championship of 18 million, and then Premier League clubs can spend what the hell they like, you've got the aspect of clubs getting relegated and promoted, and surely these salary caps are going to impact that structure of clubs getting promoted. It's absolute madness. That this is actually being pushed through. Like I said, guys, I have no problem whatsoever with a salary cap. The idea of it in principle is a good idea, but how can you just implement it in such a short space of time when they only started discussions back in January, and already we're going to see it come into effect for the upcoming season? So a little bit of research to give you a little bit of insight into it. Now, as an example, I found out that Portsmouth, as an example club, currently pay around £4 million in costs of wages, agents' fees, etc., cost basically to do with a player. So a club like Portsmouth is currently paying £4 million. So they're going to have to bring their pay structure down by 1.5 million to be able to be in line with the salary cap. Now, obviously, the majority of clubs have accepted and agreed to this. But if we look at League One and League Two, and this is no disrespect to any club whatsoever, but there is a majority of clubs in League Two that get a minimal fan number through the gates, or have a restricted input, shall we say, into their club in respect of revenue generated through fans. So I'm going to try and give some examples, and I'm not trying to single out any clubs here, guys. I'm just trying to make sense or give you guys a picture of the whole thing, and how it's not been well thought out. So for example, Rochdale, the chairman of Rochdale has come out and said that this what was his exact words? This is a wonderful news, was his exact words. For Rochdale, it is good news, because they are a club that have unfortunately got around 4,000 fans come through their turnstiles in their revenue generating from fans, shall we say. But obviously a club like Portsmouth is going to potentially have a bigger pool of fans to call upon. So they might have a higher gate of, say, I don't know, 6,000 average gate through there. So that's an extra 2,000 fans. So that's a considerable increase in income. And this is where I think that the idea of this particular salary cap is not going to work, because it's treating every club the same, which, all right, yeah, you could agree to that in some principles, but surely a club that generates more revenue should be allowed to spend a little bit more. Now, to me, the fact that if the average of what Portsmouth is spending is around £4 million in salaries, etc., that doesn't seem too ridiculous, considering what we know a Championship club is averaging, or a Premier League club is paying out for player wages. £4 million in total over a year for a club like Portsmouth, it seems a quite manageable number. And that's why I think it's madness, because, like I say, it appears to me that this has been pushed through, and that the majority of clubs in the lower leagues of League One and League Two are going to vote for this, because it will benefit them as being a club that can't generate the same kind of income as a club like Portsmouth through fans support and the fan ticket sales, shirt sales, etc. And this is where I say where I think it's not been well thought out. It's just been come up with some random figure and basically enforcing it straight away in the upcoming season without actually consulting all parties, without looking at all avenues, and without looking at the possibility of basing it on the fact of how much a club can generate. Now, I don't mean that with any disrespect to any clubs like Rochdale, but surely it is going to restrict a club's potential. And as football fans, one of the reasons we love our clubs is because we love the fact of going watching a club that we support and knowing about our club's potential. But I think personally, to allow the game to evolve in the way that it has for years, and the reason why we're so passionate about our clubs, because one thing that gets our passion going is the size of our club, its potential, how much money it can generate, etc., to make the club grow and be successful, shall we say. Then that's got to be taken into account in a decision like this, and it just appears that it hasn't been done. I've got a few quotes to the managers and what they've had to say about it. The Plymouth manager, Ryan Lowe, has questioned the EFL's salary cap. Now, as I understand it, Plymouth actually do have a salary cap, and it's not imposed by the EFL, it's imposed by themselves. They do it themselves. They have a wage structure, they stick to it, and that is a club that's run sensibly, clearly. So why the EFL can't take that into consideration is yet another thing that is showing that this is being rushed through, because you are forcing a salary cap on clubs without actually taking into account that some clubs are run sensibly and have got good owners that basically introduce their own salary cap so that they keep themselves within financial stability, shall we say. Phil Parkinson has come out and said that it's a disgrace. In his opinion, it's the idea of it is obviously he's thinking as a positive, but the way it's coming in is a negative. The PFA have also had their say on the matter. They are saying that they've had legal advice that is basically saying the salary cap will be unlawful and unenforceable. Now, as I understand it, the EFL and the PFA are currently having a meeting, whether that was yesterday, day before, I'm not sure. I just know that there was, the PFA were pushing to have a meeting, and they're supposed to be having a meeting within the last few days or the next few days. Surely the PFA should have been consulted before the decision was made to implement it. The fact that it's being implemented and suddenly the PFA and EFL are scratching around to have a meeting to discuss this shows all avenues, shall I say, have not been explored by the EFL to make sure that this is going to work. You don't push something through and then start having a meeting with another organisation that's important to help this work as what the PFA is. And the PFA is important to be involved in these discussions for the reason, the fact that the PFA represents the players. The other factor of this not working is the fact that basically Scottish clubs, Welsh clubs, French clubs, German clubs, Belgian clubs, Switzerland clubs basically may be able to attract players easily through this decision. And even non-league clubs in England could be able to attract players easier because of this decision. Because my big issue with this particular way of going about it and including all this and pushing it through and not discussing it over a longer period and before it's implemented is the fact that surely if a club like Portsmouth, for example, is paying £4 million, then in that £4 million is probably a certain amount of bonuses for players' performances. Now, if you've got a player that's local, that player's already going to be motivated to do well for the club because it's their local club. But obviously, as we know, not all players that play for our clubs are local. So some clubs, obviously bringing in foreign players or players that are not from the local area, are going to include incentives into the contract, goal scoring incentives, assist incentives, whatever incentives bonus wise they give to a player is going to be incorporated into a contract to encourage and motivate that player in another way besides just obviously the footballer's desire to do well. And that, for me, is what is going to feel the impact. That is where clubs are really going to struggle. So this is where shall we say, the slightly bigger clubs in the lower leagues of League One and League Two are going to struggle because they are not going to be able to afford to give them incentives to players because of the salary cap. And it's going to restrict their potential to improve and grow. And the reason I say that is because you have other clubs that can offer that player, bonuses and stuff like that. For example, a Belgian club may be able to offer a player that, for example, Ipswich may want, or Portsmouth may want, or any club like that that has a decent sized fan base to generate extra revenue. A Belgian club could come in and offer the same kind of wages but offer bonuses. And a club like Ipswich or Portsmouth, for example, or Bolton, might not be able to afford to be able to give them bonuses because of the salary cap, not because they can't generate the money to cover it. And that's where the idea of this salary cap is bizarre, because surely a salary cap should be introduced to make sure that clubs don't overstretch themselves. And as we know, all clubs of different sizes have different income to generate, which means that's potential revenue that they can use to obviously improve the squad. And that's not being taken into account. Why is that not being taken into account, guys? That is the question I've got to ask. It surely should be something that's taken into account because it's a massive decision that is going to impact the future of clubs being able to attract good players and do well and push for promotion. It's going to basically make it an unfair playing field, shall we say, for clubs in League One and League Two, when all of the leagues around them can basically still offer these incentives to these players. Even non-league clubs will be able to offer bonuses because they're not under the same restrictions of this salary cap. And that's why I say it's being pushed through, guys, because it looks to me like communist thinking, or they're using League One and League Two as an experiment for this idea. And that's why they pushed it through. For me, guys, there is so many people that should be involved in this kind of a decision. You've got the obviously the EFL, the FA should be involved, the players should be involved, the PFA should be involved, the managers should be involved, the chairman should be involved, and even the fans are allowed to give their views on it. With some kind of poll or something, so that everybody involved in that football club that is going to be affected by a decision like this being implemented is going to have their input, and it means that then that the EFL would have all the input that they need from every source possible to make a proper calculated decision. They've not done the valid research that is needed for something like this to be implemented. And like I say, for me guys, if something like this is going to work, it needs to start at the top. It needs to start at the Premier League and work down. Another point I'd like to make is the fact of having a salary cap of potentially 18 million in the Championship, and then a salary cap in League One as low as 2.5 million. Do you get where I'm going with that, guys? That is a massive, massive gap of financial difference. How the hell, let's say, for example, a club like Nottingham Forest or Ipswich or whatever, if they got relegated from the Championship and dropped into League One, for example, they might have kept their finances within the boundaries of that 18 million. They might have only been paying 15, 16 million out in wages. But they suddenly drop into a league where they're restricted to 2.5 million. That is so much work for a club to do, to try and bring that wage structure down to that level, when we already know any good managed club is going to do that anyway. Any club that has got good chairman in charge and good people in charge making the decisions and managing the club is going to do that. This is pushing it through to make it look like they're doing something. And that is the reality of my view of it. Because the EFL are not taking into account the fact that there is clubs out there well managed. They're just punishing every club with this decision because they have not done enough to protect the clubs that are getting into financial trouble, the clubs that aren't being well run by good owners, the clubs like Wigan, Bolton, Bury, that have all been in trouble in the last 12, 18 months financially because of bad owners and people not doing their job correctly that run that and manage that club. And the EFL have got no professionalism to deal with that particular situation. So instead, they come up with this idea to try and make it look like they're doing something. Now, like I said, guys, the idea of a salary cap is a good idea, but it needs to be well thought out, well planned, not pushed through within 6 months, not thought up in January and suddenly 6 months later we're seeing the effects of it, because that's what's going to happen. We're going to see the effects of what that decision is, the fact that they're pushing that through, impact clubs quite quickly. Now, there is some leeway with this. I know that if you look at it at all the facts, because obviously it's only just going to come in, clubs are not going to be expected to be within that structure immediately. There is going to be some leeway. But it's also going to be a negative in respect of the upcoming season, because clubs are going to be thinking about more getting in line with the salary cap rather than what they can do to actually push for promotion or survival or whatever it is. Do you get what I mean? That they're trying to do within their respective leagues. So to me, guys, the whole idea just seems absolute madness to push this through. Like I say, it could be a real positive for some clubs in Scotland, in Wales, and in non-league in England. But for the clubs in League One and League Two in England, I personally think this is going to be a negative. I think it's going to really, really restrict them clubs in respect of their progression and potential to improve and obviously market and grow the club. And obviously that's why we love our football. We want to see our clubs be successful, to achieve things, to grow and improve. And with something like this being implemented so quickly without a lot of thought behind it, seems absolute madness, guys. Absolute madness. So thank you very much for joining me today, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video. I'd love to know what you guys think about it, because for me personally, I think I've made my views quite clear. It's an absolute mad idea that's not been well thought out. As we've seen yet again with, in the same scenario with VAR and other things that the EFL have implemented and the FA have implemented in recent seasons. Um, it's just madness, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your comments below, and hopefully you guys will join me again soon on future videos. Take care for now. Bye.